It should have been one of the most exciting nights in little Timothy O'Brien's life. The 8-year-old, along with his little sister, Elizabeth 5, his dad, a neighbour, Jim Bates, and his 2 children, couldn't wait to go trick-or-treating on Halloween. Timothy's night on October 31st, 1974, had started out with dinner at the Bates house before the 2 fathers agreed to take their little ones out to collect some candy. Ronald was an upstanding member of his local community in Deer Park, Texas. He worked as an optician in town and was the deacon of the local Baptist church, where he also sang in the choir. But what the Deer Park community didn't know is that Ronald was also a man in serious debt. He owed almost $78,000 and struggled to hold down one job for long. Ronald came up with a terrifying plan to clear his mounting debts and thought Halloween was the perfect time to carry it out. Jim agreed to wait outside each of the homes while O'Brien would walk up to the front doors of the homes with the children. But at one house, no one was home, and the little ones, excited to get as much candy as possible, raced off to the next door neighbour. Just a few seconds later, O'Brien joined Jim on the pavement, clutching 5 straws filled with powdered sweets. He told his neighbour the couple had been in but hadn't reached the door in time and instead had given him the candy for the children. The trick-or-treating had to be cut short when it started to rain and the families headed home. As little Timothy was climbing into bed, he begged his dad for some of his Halloween sweets, and O'Brien handed him the pixie sticks he had collected from the house while he was alone. Chillingly, he even helped his little boy open the sealed packet. After eating the sweets, which Timothy said tasted bitter, he immediately crumpled over in agony. Racing to the bathroom, little Timothy started being sick and convulsing, all the time being held by his father. Less than an hour later, as he was in an ambulance on the way to the hospital, Timothy passed away. When police carried out a post-mortem on Timothy's body, officers discovered he had been poisoned with potassium cyanide. Initially, O'Brien stuck by his story that he had been handed the sweets by the people living at the empty house. The sweet stick he had eaten contained enough cyanide to kill 2 adults. Police rushed to stop the other children who had been out with the youngster from eating the poisoned candy. One of the youngsters had fallen asleep clutching his pixie sticks, which thankfully he had been unable to open. None of the other children had eaten any of the deadly candy, including O'Brien's 5-year-old daughter. The father told police he couldn't remember which house he thought the poisoned sweets had come from, but then, after he was forced to a walkabout, recognised the home. But he insisted he had only seen a man's arm and that no lights had been turned on. However, the homeowner, Courtney Melvin, was an air traffic controller and had been at work until 11 p.m. that night, so there was no way he could have handed over the poisoned sweets. Then police discovered O'Brien's huge debt. Not only that, but the father had taken out a $10,000 insurance policy on each of his children's lives in January 1974. This was increased by $20,000 just a month before Timothy's death. Then, just days before his son's murder, O'Brien further increased the premium by $20,000 on each child. The morning after his son had died, O'Brien called his insurance company about collecting the policies on his son. He was charged with 1 count of murder and 4 counts of attempted murder and pleaded not guilty to all 5 charges. O'Brien claimed instead that his young son had been killed by a mad poisoner, a local urban legend of a figure who hands out poisoned candy. It took the jury just 46 minutes to find him guilty and then just over an hour to sentence him to death. Former Harris County Assistant District Attorney Mike Hinton, who prosecuted the case, said the whole community was in shock. He added, "We were all shocked that someone would kill their own son, their own flesh and blood, for a lousy $40,000 life insurance policy." Following his conviction, O'Brien was dubbed the Candyman. O'Brien continued to protest his innocence even as he was led into the execution chamber. In his final statement, he said, "What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we as human beings do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs, yet doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also, to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask for your forgiveness, just as I forgive anyone who offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us, respectively, as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, knowing your hearts, I love you one and all. God bless you all, and may God's best blessings be always yours." He was executed by lethal injection on March 30th, 1984.